guys, Aquatics. In today's video, I'm going to take you on a journey of removing my canister filter from my 75-gallon Fahaka puffer tank behind me. Now, if you're not aware, my entire fish room is filterless, and I want to incorporate this tank into that. I also want to get you guys thinking and ask you a question. Do you need filtration in your tanks? You know, if you go back to that first tank you ever bought, whether it was days, weeks, or years ago, it had the whole checklist on the side, you know, that said you needed a filter, you need to have a heater, you need to have this, you need to have that. Do you? You know, I'm in the mindset that I don't like to live in that construct or that box that tells you, you need to do this and you need to do that. I really feel like there are areas, obviously, where that is plausible and it needs to be done, but with filtration, I really feel there's a gray area. Now, that being said, every tank needs filtration. It needs some type of filtration absolutely to survive. Now, there's mechanical filtration, obviously, with canister filters and hang on the backs and sponge filters. There's chemical filtration like Purigen and other products like that. And then where my tanks fall in line is biological filtration. If you can have a deeper substrate, live plants, and then possible decorations, that's filtering your tank as well. Now, people use combinations of all. They'll use all three. They'll use mechanical filtration, biological filtration, and chemical, where basically everyone's got some type of biological filtration in their tanks already, and you don't even know it. Even if you have a bare bottom tank, you have beneficial bacteria growing on the sides of your glass. So there's filtration in your tank all the time. I like to try to do it with just biological filtration, and I've been succeeding successfully at it. I have a 100-gallon Rubbermaid tote down in my basement running with koi and goldfish. I don't go ever over 10 parts per million nitrate without filtration. Now, if you want to continue with mechanical filtration, there is nothing wrong with it. I am not trying to push you to get rid of your filters at all in this video. I'm just trying to get people to try to think outside the box and know that there's other ways to do things. And that's kind of the point of it, and that's my goal today. One is to get rid of the filtration to kind of tie in with all my tanks, and two, get you guys to think. Can I do something a different way than what's been told to me and how I'm supposed to do it? That's a question for you guys to kind of think about while I show you all this. So let's go back to about a month ago when I started all this and deep dive into it. So I want to test the water in the tank right now, just to kind of get a judge of where it's at. And then secondly, I need to do a water change in this tank. It's due for this week. I do it about every 2 weeks. So yes, I'll be testing the water before the water change, but it's going to give me kind of an idea of where my nitrates level would be at when it's usually at the highest before I start to give a water change. And then I'll do the water change, and then I'm just going to turn the filter off. I'm not going to fully remove it just yet. And then I'll kind of document the process of how this goes over the next few weeks. But first things first, let's test some Aquarium Co-op test strips and see where we're at. So as you can see, I have barely any nitrates. I'd probably be lucky if you'd even read that as 10. That's really the only thing I look at, and well, I will be looking at nitrites throughout this process and bringing out my API, a liquid test for the ammonia down the road. But for right now, we're looking good, and we know after about 2 weeks of running on this tank, I don't even reach 10 parts per million of nitrate. So let's do a water change, and then I'll show you what I'm doing after that. All right, so the water change is done. Now, before we sit back and observe this for the next few weeks, I'm thinking I'm going to drop an air stone in there. I'm a little torn on it. I like to not put an air stone in here and have the pump running. I like it to be quiet. I like it quiet up here because this is in my living room area. I feel like it would be fine without air, but my biggest problem is, especially in winters, which I've noticed in my tanks downstairs, is I have to put the heater all the way to the bottom, because otherwise that bottom layer of water would always be very cold compared to the top layer, because you have no water circulating or moving that around. So that's my biggest thing. I think I need to put one in here more than anything to kind of get some water movement, just to move the heat from the heater around. So I'm going to do that now and kind of see how it goes. I can get a little regulator on there to kind of just make it a little tiny drip of air, just to kind of bloop, 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 bloop. But I'll hook this up, and then I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I got the air stone in there, got it running. Said we'll sit back and kind of document how this goes over the next few weeks. I'll do water tests every couple days, and then if everything is good within a week, which I believe it will be, then we'll remove that canister filter completely. But yeah, let's see how it goes every few days. So this is day 2 of having no filter running. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of a haze in the water, but that's okay. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know all the facts about scientifically what's going on, but basically what's happening is your tank is trying to balance itself now that there is no filter. I've had this happen in all my tanks when I took out the filters, so I'm not worried with that in a bit. But what we're going to do is test. We're going to test for ammonia, nitrate, and nitrates. First, we'll start with the Aquarium Co-op multi-test strips, and we'll check for nitrate and nitrite. All right, so there are no nitrites and no nitrates, or just barely, which is to be expected. This happened in all my previous tanks, so that's good. I don't think there's ammonia in the tank at all, but I will test it just to show you guys that there's not. Well, as you can see, we have 0 ammonia like I thought. So about 48 hours in, no nitrate, no ammonia, and no nitrite. All right, so this is day 7. I haven't tested the water since day 2, so it's been 1 week since I turned my filters off. Now, there isn't really much of a difference. There's still a tad bit of a haze, but nothing terrible. I feel like it's improved a little bit. I did change the air stone out. I got a different one. The one I had was just making too much of a noise in there, which I did not like. So I got one I can put down into the substrate. Then I have a little regulator on top so that I can adjust the airflow. I will get a different air hose, probably the black ones, next time I order something from Aquarium Co-op, so it kind of matches the background. But that brings us to today. We'll test the water one more time for nitrates and nitrites, and then also the ammonia. If everything is good, like I believe it will, then we will remove the filters, or filter today, my canister filter. So let's do that. I'll show you the results. Let's start with the nitrate and nitrites with the Aquarium Co-op test strips. 0 nitrites, and it still looks like, I don't know, I think it's probably 5 nitrates. As I anticipated, 0 ammonia. So the chemistry in here, the water chemistry, has been going very good. I would not be surprised if I shoot up a little bit on nitrite. Probably no more than 1 part per million, but that happened in some of my tanks downstairs, but we shall see how they go. But now let's get this filter out of here and let's see what this tank looks like without a canister filter. All right, so I got that canister filter fully removed. Water's a little kicked up from all the debris from getting it out of there and rearranging stuff, but that will settle. I'm not done. I will continue to monitor it over the next couple weeks in this video, and then we'll see what all happens here probably within the next 2 weeks. Well, it's been 2 weeks since I turned that filter off. Things have been going very good. There's been some changes, so I'll give you a little bit of a closer look. Well, we have developed some string algae, which, like I said earlier, is completely normal. This tank is going to be going through a complete and utter change in its balance, so it's just got to level out. It happens when you turn a filter off. Things just change in it. I have found that I got extreme growth in some of this Vallisneria up here. Like that's been like 2 weeks, it's grown over 1 foot on some of those. In others not. I've collected this, it looks detritusy type of algae on the Vallisneria there, but it's not coming on my Pogostem and Stellatus octopus at all. It's just on the Vallisneria. I think because it's a slower grower than the Pogostem and Stellatus octopus is. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to test the water again just to see where we're at, and then I'm going to do a few things in the tank here. So let's see what we're at with the water parameters first. Okay, so as you can see, not much has changed here. 0 nitrite, and then the nitrates, that's probably right about 10 parts per million. So that's pretty much what it was at last week as well. So they're not rising, which is kind of what I expected. Let's test the ammonia again. Like this. And just as I suspected, zero ammonia. So after 2 weeks, we found that by turning off my filter and fully removing it, I have had no nitrites and no ammonia. And my nitrates have stabilized at no more than 10 parts per million, which is actually less than it was when I was running a filter. So what does that tell me? That tells me that my tank is properly biologically filtering itself. So it's doing good. Now it still has an imbalance with the algae that is creating in there from not having that flow and everything in there. So that will take some time to balance out. But if my tank is filtering itself, well, let's put some more filters in there. So I have some more plants that I took out of my summer tubs. I'm not sure the order of how my videos are coming out, but I took all the plants out of there because it was getting a little colder in my fish, and I'm going to redistribute some of them in here. So we'll do that, and then I'm going to see if I can get some of that little stringy to try to see algae looking stuff off my Velson area, and some of the stuff that's up here, I'll remove it. So let's do that now. Well, things are pretty cloudy now because I put those plants in there and stirred things up, but I was able to get that to try to see looking algae off of the Velson area for the most part. I really truly believe it stems from that Java moss that's in there that seems to really collect it the most and strings out onto those other plants. So I don't know if they're connected or not, but I just find that very weird. And then I put 2 big clumps of Velson area there, one there and one there. That one has immersed growth that was outside in the pond, which I thought was kind of cool looking. And funny enough, I tried to put one back in the corner there where my Fahaka puffer sits, and he freaked out and made me freak out. And I jumped like a big baby and shot water everywhere. I thought he was coming for my hand when I think he really was just, I startled him. But anyway, I digress. I also put some Luigi in here. I have one shoot there, put a couple there, and the one in the back. So, like I said, it's pretty cloudy right now from me sticking my hands in there and stirring everything up. But why don't we check back again in a week, and we'll give one more water test and see how it's going. Today marks 1 month since I turned the filter off of my Fahaka puffer tank here. So what we're going to do is do one more set of water tests to make sure that the water parameters are all good, which I believe they will be, and if they are, this will wrap up this project. But first things first, let's quick do some water tests. Like usual, about 10 part per million nitrate and 0 nitrite. 0 ammonia. Well, during this entire process over the last month, I never went over 10 parts per million nitrate. Never had any nitrate or ammonia. So I think it's safe to say that this project was a success. And I hope I got you guys thinking a little bit. Thinking outside that construct of that box of how and why you're supposed to do things. You know, because not only in this hobby, but in life, it's good to think outside the box sometimes because there's always gray area. Now, also, like I said, I am not trying to talk you out of filtration. If you want to have filtration in your tank, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. It is very good. I just like to do things differently. It's just the way I am, whether this camera is in front of me or not. So if this type of stuff is something that interests you, please consider going to my channel and hitting that subscribe button. It'd be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time here at Patty's Aquatics.